Imagine this. Tonight, just before bed, turn off every light in your house. Turn off your phone. Close your laptop. Pull the curtains shut. Now, wait. Within seconds, you'll feel it. The silence, the darkness, the strange sense that something is missing. For modern humans, darkness feels unnatural. But for nearly all of human history, darkness was the default. For over 99% of our existence as a species, there were no light bulbs, no televisions, no illuminated cities glowing on the horizon. When the sun disappeared, the world transformed into something completely different, a place of mystery, a place of danger, a place where human beings spent nearly half their lives. But what exactly happened during those hours? What did ancient humans do when the work of the day was finished and the world beyond the firelight became invisible? The answer is far more fascinating than simply they slept. In fact, night may have been the most important part of the human day, and it may have helped create everything that makes us human. To understand why, we need to travel back to a time before civilization, before farming, before cities, before history itself. Imagine a small group of hunter-gatherers 50,000 years ago. The sun is setting, the temperature is dropping, birds are becoming quiet, shadows are stretching across the landscape. For most animals, this is the signal to find shelter, but humans are different. As darkness falls, people begin gathering wood. Soon, sparks become flames, the fire grows, and suddenly a small piece of the night belongs to them. Today, we take fire for granted, but for ancient humans, fire was a miracle. It provided warmth, protection, cooked food, and most importantly, light. Not much light by modern standards. A campfire illuminates only a tiny area. Everything beyond that circle remains hidden. But that small circle changed human history forever, because for the first time, people could stay awake after sunset without being completely helpless. Those extra hours became some of the most important hours of the day. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies have discovered something interesting. During daylight, conversations are usually practical. People talk about food, hunting, tools, weather, problems that need immediate attention. Night is different. When people gather around a fire, conversation changes. Stories emerge, jokes are told, myths are shared, questions are asked. People become less concerned with survival and more concerned with meaning. It's almost as if darkness encourages imagination. And that may not be a coincidence. Around a campfire, human beings began doing something no other animal does particularly well. They started creating imaginary worlds. Think about every great story ever told, every religion, every legend, every superhero movie, every novel, every civilization. They all depend on the ability to imagine things that aren't physically present. Some scientists believe the campfire helped develop exactly this ability. Night created a unique environment where the human mind could wander beyond immediate reality. The fire became humanity's first movie screen. The flames danced, shadows moved, faces glowed in the dark, stories came alive, and generation after generation, those stories shaped human culture. But storytelling wasn't just entertainment, it was survival. A story about a dangerous animal could save lives. A tale about a foolish hunter could teach valuable lessons. A legend could preserve knowledge for centuries. Long before books existed, stories were humanity's memory system. Everything important had to be remembered, and the easiest way to remember information was to turn it into a story. Night after night, around countless fires, humanity educated itself. But stories weren't the only thing happening. There was another activity that probably filled ancient nights: watching the sky. Today, most people rarely see the stars. Light pollution hides much of the universe. But ancient humans lived beneath one of the greatest sights imaginable, the untouched night sky. Without artificial lights, the Milky Way stretches across the heavens like a glowing river. Thousands of stars become visible, meteor showers appear dazzling, planets shine brightly, the moon dominates the landscape. For our ancestors, the sky wasn't background scenery. It was one of the most important things in their lives. They used it to navigate, to track seasons, to predict migrations, to mark time. Many ancient myths began simply because people stared upward and wondered, what are those lights? Why do they move? Who put them there? The first astronomers weren't scientists. They were ordinary people sitting beside fires under an endless sea of stars. And those observations eventually led to calendars, mathematics, navigation, and science itself. In a strange way, modern astronomy began with ancient boredom. People looked up because there wasn't much else to look at, and what they discovered changed the world. But ancient nights weren't always peaceful. Far from it. Darkness carried real dangers. Today, if you hear a strange noise outside your house, it's usually nothing, perhaps a car, a neighbor, the wind. For ancient humans, strange noises often meant something far more serious: predators. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans shared the world with lions, leopards, hyenas, bears, wolves, and countless other hunters, and many of those animals preferred the night. Humans have excellent daytime vision, but compared to many predators, our night vision is terrible. Once darkness fell, we became vulnerable. This is one reason fire was so important. A fire didn't just provide comfort, it provided security. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups show that predators generally avoid active campfires. The fire created a protective boundary. Inside the light, humans were relatively safe. Outside the light, danger waited. That contrast shaped human psychology. Even today, many people feel uneasy in darkness. Children fear the dark, despite never encountering a predator. Adults often feel more alert at night. Our brains still carry ancient survival systems designed for a world where darkness mattered. The fear isn't irrational, it's inherited. For thousands of generations, cautious people survived. Careless people often didn't. But perhaps the most surprising part of ancient nights involved sleep itself. Most people assume humans have always slept the way we do now. Go to bed, sleep for 8 hours, wake up. Simple. Yet history suggests otherwise. Historical records from Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East contain references to something unusual. People regularly spoke about a first sleep and a second sleep. At first, historians thought these phrases meant something symbolic, but the references kept appearing again and again. Eventually, researchers realized they were describing a completely different sleep pattern. People would sleep for several hours, wake naturally during the middle of the night, remain awake for a period, then return to sleep before dawn. Modern sleep researchers became fascinated by this idea. Experiments later showed that when artificial light is removed, many people naturally drift toward this older pattern. It's as though our bodies remember something modern life has nearly erased. Imagine lying awake beneath the stars. The camp is quiet. The fire glows softly. Everyone else is resting. There are no notifications, no deadlines, no distractions, only silence. Ancient humans may have experienced a state of reflection that modern people rarely encounter. And that reflection may have been incredibly important. Throughout history, some of humanity's greatest ideas emerged during moments of solitude. Night provided exactly that: time to think, time to wonder, time to imagine. The darkness may have acted like a mirror, forcing people to confront questions that daylight allowed them to ignore. Who are we? Why are we here? What happens after death?
Questions like these appear in nearly every culture ever studied, and many of them were likely asked beneath a night sky. But perhaps the greatest difference between ancient nights and modern nights was something surprisingly simple. They were not filled with constant stimulation. Today, nearly every spare moment can be occupied. Videos, music, games, messages, news, entertainment never stops. Ancient humans had long periods where nothing happened, and while that sounds boring, it may have been one of the greatest advantages they possessed. Modern neuroscience suggests that when the brain isn't constantly occupied, it activates networks associated with creativity, memory, and self-reflection. Some of our best ideas arrive when we're doing nothing at all. The shower, a walk, a quiet moment before sleep. Ancient humans experienced those states regularly.